We are on camera. Got my ding dong vote. I'll call this meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Glendale-River School District Board on July 23, 2025, a regular meeting. Roll call is, let's see, Chris Robinson. Here. Katie Avalos.
Here.
Carla Pennington Cross is here. We have a quorum. Karen Cronwell is still en route back from vacation. Danielle Bailey will be a few minutes late, but we can begin without her. At this time, if you wish to say the Pledge of Allegiance, you may stand and do so.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to item D, agenda approval.
I move to approve the agenda. I'll second.
All right, motion by Chris Robinson, second by Katie Avalos, all in favor? Aye, motion carries. Item 1E, approval of board meeting minutes from June 30th and July 9th.
I move to approve the board minutes from June 30th and July 9th. I'll second.
Any discussion? You see there are amended minutes, are we approving the amended minutes?
The amended minutes.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion by Chris Robinson, second by Katie Avalos to approve the June 30th special school board meeting minutes and then the amended minutes for the July 9th meeting. All in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. And then here is, we're on item 1F with a meeting grounding that Ms. Robinson has agreed to do.
Right, I was at a virtual conference and came across this and I thought it was very useful. And what it is, it's a model for managing complex change. So it's all of the things that you need to have in place in order for major change to be successful. And what I liked about it is it told you what would happen if you were missing a key component. And it made a lot of things make a lot of sense to me. So let me just go through it really quickly. For your vision, it's kind of a guiding light, helping people to make informed decisions as the decision or as the work is being done. And it helps avoid confusion and unintended outcomes. It reminded me of when we did the strategic plan and we had to be able to do a little elevator speech about it. We all had to be able to remember it, and that told me that the vision was clear. We also need some level of consensus, especially at the leadership level, and having just many advocates for the change. So in my mind, if somebody is frustrated or grumbling, there's an advocate somewhere who can remind why we're doing what we're doing. And to me, that you have to believe that change is needed, and you have to have reasonable hope that what you're doing is going to affect that change. For skills, obviously we need a certain level of skills to implement change. But a lot of times we think about what the technical skills are if we're doing a new curriculum, making sure we can access it, making sure we know its various features. But there are also change skills that we need to have. The ability to handle change, whether that's self-awareness, openness to feedback, risk-taking, that kind of thing. All of those things are needed to make change. The next one is incentives, and it could be intrinsic, like that you personally develop, or extrinsic, praise and that kind of thing. To notice the hard work. And I'm thinking that a lot of that probably happens in walkthroughs, right? Some of the change that we're trying to affect takes a long time, right? If we're going from fall to spring to see some results, that takes a lot of time. It takes a long time. And anything we can do to show progress as we're going. Ooh, last time I was here, I didn't see this. Now I see a lot of it. Resources, obviously we need resources, and one of those important resources is time. And I like how this team noticed that there was so much testing and that was taking away from time. And so said, as long as we have to do Ames Web, well, let's just make Ames Web our screener. That was a way that you gave more time. And we need an action plan. And today's meeting, we're gonna talk about those key performance indicators, which indeed are part of an action plan. They are an action plan. So I just want to bring this forward because as we're talking about change, we should all keep in mind that when we're doing change, we need to make sure that these are present so that we can be successful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I love this.
Yeah.
And I like the idea too, that like, if you're working on change and something's going wrong, this is an interesting cheat sheet to look at.
Uh-huh.
To say like, oh, I'm sensing resistance around me.
Mhm.
Maybe, we need some incentivizing, or I'm sensing like, there's a cohort that's really trying to undermine our work. What's missing?
Mhm.
And this is a nice little, like cheat sheet to look backwards, right?
Mhm.
As well. Plan
Absolutely.
forward, but then also look backward, like, wow, I see in this. And to think about where solutions can be found. Love it. Thanks. Thank you for sharing that. All right. On to item 2A, public comments. At this time, visitors may speak on any non-agenda item if you wish. Ms. Martin.
Wayne Martin, 7275 Northport Washington Road, apartment 1221, Glendale, Wisconsin, 53217. And I was looking at Wisconsin unclaimed property the other day, and Glendale-River Hills has $200 there, and then also the PTO also has a couple $100, and just wanted to pass that along.
Where?
And Wisconsin unclaimed property, if for whatever reason a vendor owes someone or some organization money, but can't give them the money. They always keep the money, they have to send it into Wisconsin. And they keep the money until you claim it, which just as an aside, I think. At least, I think. Checking, I think like half board members have something on there, I think we check how much it was worth. I know everyone. I check people's last names and there's stuff there for everyone's last names as well, but might not be necessarily first. But just a heads up.
Weird. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. You can do that to Michelle. You missed a wonderful grounding by Chris. Danielle Bailey has entered the house and is now present with an excused late arrival. All right, anyone else for public comment? Anyone online? All right. Moving on to item 3A, reading instructional goal. All right.
I would like to ask Jenica Stick to come up and present on the evaluation of our reading programming in grades 4 and 5, 6 and 8 for the 25-26 school year and goals for our reading program.
Hey, Jenica.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Okay, so for this, I'd like to just do a little bit of a step back for that K-5 through 3rd grade and kind of just do a quick review and then dig into the goal real quick. Just really focusing in on that assessment for reading readiness. That's kind of the key piece to this K-5 through 3rd grade curriculum review for this 1-year evaluation. One thing to note is the state determined what our assessment will be, so that will be Ames Web Plus. And just really thinking about this piece is really some of the things that we really wanted to focus on were those recommendations that I put in there around that tier 2 progress monitoring and really beefing up our systems around that. Since we are shifting to Ames Web for all diagnostic and progress monitoring, really digging into that coaching because 95% is the focus of the curriculum work that we'll be doing in K-5 through 3rd grade. And then also really doing that monitoring of fidelity of implementation. And I will say a shout out to your grounding, because the work we did as our early literacy team, some of our work was around that exact slide.
And we'll.
Nice. So brilliant. The team has really focused in on that as well, and that'll help us with our step back meetings that we have throughout the year. So thank you. And the goal for this,
Same brain, I love it.
yeah, it's very powerful, and having teachers, leaders look at that too, to help solve some of that is really important. So focusing in on that goal for approval. We have by June 2026, 80% of students in grade kindergarten, 5-year-old kindergarten through 3rd grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of Ames Web. So you can see the performance data is there, so all the things that students are being assessed on for Ames Web is there.
That's what we approved last time, right?
So I just wanted to step into that, and then looking into 4th and 5th grade, so the focus is 95% as well. Okay, so we're doing 95% K-5 all the way through 5th grade. And it's very similar, this report, so if you dig into it, a lot of the things are the same. Highlight that I just wanted to pull out, to touch on again, that tier 2, tier 3. Something new that we want to work on is creating a process and a dashboard for reporting out growth for our students. Similar to the tier 1 proficiency data that we're already reporting out on. Because we are shifting to Ames Web progress monitoring K through 8. So that's going to be a shift for our teachers, so we'll be able to see vertically how our students are growing and moving. Because we may not see total growth in tier 1 screeners, but we will see it when we're doing those interventions that are so specific. With that progress monitoring, we'll be able to see that week by week growth. And then a little different topics covered, we're a little different, more fluency, and thinking about supporting different phonics pieces within the lessons. Teachers really enjoyed some of that PD and found that they needed to increase their family supports. So they created some pieces to support families at home for 4th and 5th grade. Another difference is the assessment tool. We utilize STAR for screening over at Glen Hills. So we have the STAR screening there, and then the diagnostic will be a shift this year. We'll be utilizing that Ames Web for diagnostic. So any student that is not meeting, right? Anybody 25th percentile or below will get some diagnostic screening utilizing Ames Web, and that'll help support those tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And then we'll be doing the progress monitoring on those and creating a dashboard to report out in the future on. So with that, we have a proficiency goal for this. So 4th and 5th grade, by the end of June 2026, 65% of students in 4th and 5th grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of STAR reading. And then along with that, very similar recommendations.
So you're hoping for a 30% increase, like almost double. Would be cool.
How does that feel as like a lift for staff and admin in terms of being realistic? Just curious.
I think we're close in several areas. I do notice, like when we do the assessments, winter scores tend to be higher than we did down in May. So we are making some changes to their assessment calendar at the end of the year. Because a lot of kids are coming off of forward and then they're rolling right into start.
Right.
So that sometimes we have a lot of testing fatigue.
Yeah.
So we're changing how we're doing some of that forward. So my hope is that we're a little closer to some of those winter scores. We kind of go, okay. And also, we gotta take it kind of serious too. So I do have some. And we're also in year 3 of doing it. The first year was like, I'm not sure. Year 2, we got the curriculum. Now we can go. So
For 95%?
Yeah, so it's kind of have like an implementation dip sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we bump up.
Okay.
And if we don't meet the goal and we get close to it, that's a celebration, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's also in the messaging, like we want it, like high expectations, right? So we want to move our students. And I think it's doable.
I love it.
And then also coming off of our students who had 95%. So now all students have had 95% in the district. So now rolling it in, so we have kids that have that base, before they didn't have that base.
Right.
So you're playing catch up to it.
Right.
So there's several reasons why, you know,
Yeah.
you could see a nice bump.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. And again, just really tweaking that, one of the, products would be, you know, changing that, assessment calendar and tweaking that. And then again, that, creating that process for, really walkthroughs and really talking about instructional practices. So if in one fourth grade classroom, all the students took the unit assessment and 85% of their students, were proficient in a different classroom, maybe 40%, then having those conversations, what did you do? Right? Because we want all students to get that. So really digging in more in those instructional practices where we have a lot of student data, but we need to now look at some of the instruction, right? What are we doing? And where are their holes? And if there are holes, but there's no perfect curriculum. Right, so we have to be really reflective on what we're doing, and that leads to, again, that chart, right? So, that would be 4, 5.
I propose that we start with 4, 5. And I'll just have the motion on that one, because you're gonna propose a different goal for
Yeah.
3.
Oh,
Would
okay.
that work?
Yeah.
So would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah.
You see what the recommendation is for the goal for approval.
Well, we have an opportunity to discuss.
Yeah, a motion then discuss, right?
Okay.
Okay. I move to approve the reading program goal for 4th and 5th grade. By June 2026, 65% of students in 4th and 5th grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of STAR reading.
Second.
And then, discussion, we'll start with Chris.
Sorry, yes, I can hit my notes here. I like this goal, and I also wondered about, adding something, and fewer than 15% are in the developing category. So we're not only looking at who's proficient, but who is moving out of the developing category, in terms of equity and things like that. That's just an idea.
What do you think about that, Jen? It would be. You know, sort of to move that.
Well, I think it would be. Instead of just developing, I would like one of that to, and also approaching, right? Because we want students moving all the way along, right? So we would want, I mean, the goal would be get the approaching out fast, right? And
Right.
then we shift our develop approaching,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is how we want to move students.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one way to get at that is when we're doing that whole shift to some of our Eames lab, because most of our developing students might be at a grade level or 2. So we are doing that intervention work, and that's that heavy progress monitoring on those specific skills that they're working on. Because with a Eames or with a STAR, that's on grade level standards, so it's harder to see those little
Yes.
movements.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more than happy with doing a growth goal like that, or having a good. But I do think we'll see some tighter and faster and more specific movement when we look at the progress monitoring data that we'll present next year. Just
Yeah,
a thought.
so maybe, are you thinking maybe a STAR isn't an appropriate measure of that, or that we won't?
Well,
Yeah.
you'll be able to see more growth in
Got it.
students based off of the progress monitoring, but I think we can definitely add a growth goal to this if we wanted to.
Mhm.
And we could do that for both schools.
Mhm.
If we want to. So.
Could you repeat what the language was you wanted to? I didn't even write it down.
Yeah,
Processing it.
Hang on a second.
It
Let me
was
see what it-
decreased to 15% or below the developing.
So, hold on. Yeah, so right now it's by June 2026, 65% of students in 4th and 5th grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of STAR reading, and I would add. And fewer than 15% will remain in the developing range. Something like that. Was that what you had? Yeah.
In developing range. Is that the?
Yeah, that's what I said, and fewer than 15% of students will score in the developing range.
Oh, will score in. I like that. I mean, you're thinking about just making sure we don't leave behind,
Yep.
right? That we make sure we keep teachers as well focused on the kids who need the most support.
Mhm.
Yeah, without pushing, like, I get where you're going, like, growth for everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with that? You think that's doable? It's not unreasonable? It's. All right, Katie, or do you have anything else? for us?
No, that was it.
So Katie, any thoughts?
No.
Let's discuss. Danielle, what are you, well, you could. Express your opinion on Chris's idea and anything else.
Oh, yeah, I love Chris's idea. Thank you for thinking of that. I was just thinking we'll need a motion to.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I love this. I love the clear goals. Thank you for getting this work done. I know it's hard to do. And I guess, you know, what I always think of, a goal should be achievable, but also may not be achieved. It's okay. Like in my mind, it's okay as long as we know we're pushing and we've got our attentions in the right place and we're not leaving students behind. That's what matters. So I too am very comfortable with adding Chris's language. So, yeah, any comments from visitors online? Then we need a motion to amend.
I just asked Jennifer, like a quick
Yeah.
question by
Of course,
clarification.
I'm
So
sorry.
we're assessing the effectiveness of a program of study for our students. What percentage of students, like on a, if it's effective, what percentage of students? Like I think that's 80%, right?
80%.
So,
So we know
Yeah.
that we're in business, right?
Yeah.
With 80% of our students who are proficient
Mhm.
in grade level standards, right? So, and that's curriculum, teachers, all of the mix,
Yeah.
right? Because the curriculum isn't gonna just drive, right?
Right.
But we want to be able to, like on a unit assessment, that's why I always bring that back to those PLTs, the importance of that. Like we taught the standards, now we are checking to see how many students have the standards that we just taught. Because we can't keep moving through, you know, if we're not meeting students' needs, right?
So let me piggyback on that.
Yeah.
I can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting we're evaluating curriculum and not setting goals. I mean, we are setting goals
Yeah.
for students,
Yeah.
but would 20% be more appropriate if we're measuring fewer than 20% are,
I see, yeah.
because that's what we're going
Well,
for
no.
curriculum?
No,
No.
not
Okay.
not necessarily. The reason why I would say that is that we would say that we would want 80% to be proficient. So between that developing and that approaching category, you wouldn't want more than 20%
Got it.
sitting there. So that's
Okay.
that's
Okay.
inching us closer towards where we need to be, which is good.
Okay,
And that addition to that goal also leads into that work around the tier 2 and tier 3 interventions and us setting up. Like those systems to show on a dashboard that we're doing that, right?
okay.
And that we're moving students, so this kind of falls in line of the work that we're recommending to do this school.
Mhm.
So it all works, right?
Got it.
So that we can visualize that for the board. And we're moving students that are in those interventions too, and that should show, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I think this just makes it explicit and clear for everybody, right,
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not actually really changing your goal,
No,
but
no,
it's,
but
yeah,
but it's
but
good.
it's clear, yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Daniel Bailey, with a second by Chris Robinson, and it looks like we need a motion to amend. Right.
I'll move to amend the motion to include, this is language we discussed.
You have.
Yeah, I can restate it, the language that Chris proposed, so there's a
Yeah.
motion by Daniel Bailey to amend the motion by Daniel Bailey to include the language Chris suggested. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion of the motion to amend? All in favor? Aye. All right, the motion is amended, so now. The motion that is before us is, I'm gonna try to get this right. Motion by Danielle Bailey, second by Chris Robinson. Amended by Danielle Bailey with a second, okay, motion by Danielle Bailey, second by Chris Robinson. As amended. The motion is to approve a reading program goal of the following. By June 2026, 65% of students in fourth and fifth grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of STAR reading. And fewer than 15% of fourth and fifth graders will score in the developing range. Did I get that right?
Is it DL? Okay. Yeah,
Right, okay. I think I got it.
You got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I heard 4 ayes, motion carries. All right, moving on to 6 through 8.
Great. And this one's just a little different. I tried to lay out all the reports that's the same way, just for ease of use. But this one's a little different in the respect that it was really pilot work that happened throughout the year. So we had a team of teachers that worked with coaches, looking at multiple different curriculums. And really focusing in on knowledge-based curriculum grounded in the science of reading. Use of explicit, systematic, evidence-based strategies. And then also we really did a lot of focus on that equity lens as well. To really ground our thinking around what curriculum would work best with the students within our walls. So you can kind of see like some highlights that were in there. I'm not gonna read it to you. But what the teachers landed on, so when we look at our core curriculum, the focus areas that we had this year were essential standards, so we kind of worked through some of that. Some things that we need to continue to work on is consistency around reteaching, so that goes back to that tier 2 work. Interventions tier 2 and tier 3, we'll be moving into that Ames web. So we'll be training our staff, interventionists, special education teachers, and any classroom teachers who will be doing interventions on Ames web this coming school year. And then also, how are we going to document and create a dashboard and show growth for students who are receiving those interventions? Thinking about the work of 24-25, the ELA coaches and interventionists were very engaged, helping support that piloting reviews that we were doing. We had 6 people on the team out of 8. And then all 8 staff members were engaged in the final decision on what to move to for piloting for this upcoming school year, which was HMH into literature was determined.
What's it? Sorry, HMH
Yep.
into literature.
It's
Well, HMH. Ultimate form.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Oh.
Yeah, ultimate. It's called into literature.
Like into thin air.
So, and then just putting some of the teacher feedback, the equity lens was used within that process. They also felt that the curriculum values and showcases diversity. There were 2 curriculums that we pulled off of pretty quick based off of the equity lens. So, which was a very easy, had heavy science of reading, but yet, we need both. So, thinking about assessment tools, same as 4 or 5. We're utilizing the STAR ELA assessment, and then we'll be utilizing Ames Web Plus for any diagnostic. It's the same chart that's in here as well. It is 4th grade through 8th grade. We can talk about adding on to the goal in just a moment. But we do have some recommendations for the upcoming school year. So this will be again a pilot. So we'll be looking at evaluating our pilot. I did put in there a pros PD calendar of what we're going to be looking at throughout the school year. So there's like student surveys in there, staff trainings, creating walkthrough tools, and all of those pieces are within that document. And then really scheduling those step back meetings throughout the year so that we can really reflect and utilizing that chart, right? We can kind of reflect on where are we at with this and get some good discussions going around that. And continue at the very end of the school year, then we'll dig in again to the Knowledge Matters curriculum review tool. We use that on all of the pilot materials we had, but we only had pieces of those. We only got 1 unit of it. We can go really deep now with it and really determine whether or not this is the curriculum for us, along with looking at the instructional data and then the student data. And we also have student surveys in there, and then we're still determining how we want to gather information from parents, whether or not that may be at a parent academy or we send out a survey, so what's the best way to get that information? And then, of course, information from staff. So that's kind of the recommendations, and then someone's gonna probably have to say to change the goal, but I'm good with recreating the 4-5 goal, right?
Oh, it's the same as.
It's the same, it's the same goal that we can easily add fewer than 50% of 6th through 8th grade.
Okay, I've optimistically already written it in my motions book. On the assumption someone will make that motion.
Well, but you have it.
But I'm the queso grande, so I'm gonna try not to.
Okay. You wanna do it, Chris?
You want me to, I'm sorry, to make a motion with a change?
Yeah,
With
with
your
the same
language.
change that you, if you want,
Yeah, well, yeah.
only if
yeah.
you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna do, thanks. Sorry. I move that we adopt this goal for approval by June 2026. 65% of students in 6th through 8th grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of STAR ELA. And fewer than 15% of students will score in the developing range.
There's a second.
Second.
All right, further discussion if needed, Katie Ellis. Danielle, you.
Just somewhat tangential, but I'm curious, so you're gonna spend the whole year evaluating the pilot program. Sorry, you're gonna spend the whole year evaluating the pilot program. What happens at the end of the year if you don't decide it's not the right, do you like start from scratch
We'll
again?
do some step backs throughout the year, so if we're
Okay.
finding like mid-year, and we'll do a board update mid-year, so we'll
Yeah.
put in there in
Yeah.
January, we'll do an update. But we'll have to look at some additional options.
You'll pivot.
Yeah, are there more? Like, I mean, there's two, you kind of like, meh, and then there's this one, and if this isn't it,
There was one more, but there's, I think they have to live a little bit, so.
Yeah, yeah.
For how excited and engaged everyone is, I'm thinking we're not gonna go.
Okay, cool, I was just curious how that works in general.
You know, and there's just so many options with it, there's novels that you can purchase. I mean,
Right.
This one just has so much flexibility within walls. Cool. So everyone's getting the standards, but yet you can utilize a different novel. Or different, but teach the same standards, and I think the staff here really appreciates that, because
Yeah.
everyone has a different niche.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, we'll have, that'll be a great conversation. Yeah.
All right, I got nothing. Chris, any further comments?
No, thanks.
Any visitors, anyone online? All right, try to say it again. There's a motion by Chris Robinson, second by Danielle Bailey, to approve a reading program goal as follows: by June 2026, 65% of students in 6th through 8th grade will meet or exceed proficiency in all tested areas of STAR ELA, and fewer than 15% will score in the developing range. All right, all in favor? Aye. I vote 4 ayes, motion carries. Awesome, thank you, thank you.
Oh, and I will say, this is the first time in my teaching career that I've ever seen a curriculum review pilot where everyone was on the same page, so yes. So-
That's great.
That's a good conversation,
record.
then. That's consensus.
That's what I'm hearing. What about
That's
95%
from the start.
Yes.
Right, that's what
Uh,
happens. Invite people.
I was gonna say, do you have that on 95%? Yes, conversation for later. So I didn't think.
Awesome, awesome. Okay,
Thank you, Jennifer, have a good, thanks.
thank you, Danica. Item 3B, KPIs.
All right, so in our policy 1110, assessment of district goals, it acknowledges that establishing goals with the administration to accomplish the district's mission is a major function of the board. So on June 30th, we were able to hold a board workshop and review data from the 24-25 school year to assess progress of the district And as a result of our combined work with the board, we prioritize some goal areas around our strategic pillars and some potential, we talked through some potential key indicators. Then the district administration used those priorities to develop goal statements and key performance indicators for board approval. And if we're going to walk through those tonight, I want to entertain any questions that the board has around those and any suggestions. And then looking at the recommendation that we would approve the indicators as attached or potentially revised to the agenda. If we get to a point where we need more time, we can certainly do that, but I do want to say, you know, some of the contingent work on moving our district forward is hinged on us having clarity, right, with our staff, so the closer we can get to getting after these things, and no measure's perfect, and we have the ability as a board also to revise those measures as we see needed throughout the process, so just kind of want to, you know, put that out there to begin with. So as sort of you know, a practice, I developed an administrative content, a pilot website for the ability to take a look at that, to kind of think about how that could look as a public facing document at some point in time around our KPIs, with the idea that the district improvement plan, the Parkway improvement plan, and the Glen Hills School improvement plan would probably remain internal documents as we work through them in the 25-26 school years, with the potential of opening those up for public view, but those KPIs would be the front facing document to the public, right?
But not next year.
The strategic plan with the KPI indicators would be public this year.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
what won't be?
The district improvement plan, the
Oh.
school improvement plan at Parkway, and that's sort of like an internal working
Yeah,
document
right,
where we're
okay.
working through that and changing it and editing it
Mhm.
on the go. So I think I'd like you here to just work with the format to find out what fits there, what doesn't,
Yeah.
like, does it work, do we need to reformat it, that kind of
Right.
thing.
Makes
But
sense.
but creating that front facing document, so that strategic plan, highlighting our pillars, and then also the key indicators would be public facing.
Right.
So I know I've given you the opportunity to review all of those KPIs. We can walk through them each as their own, or I can just open the floor to questions as you have an opportunity to review that information and administrative content.
What do you guys need? Chris, what would be beneficial to you? Let's take a soft survey here. Would you like Anna to walk us through each of the KPIs? Would that be helpful, or? Is it that, what about? I don't know.
I would. Oh, okay,
Either
but if
way.
I'm alone. it's fine.
No, it's
Katie,
fine.
what would be helpful to you? Evaluating.
I think go through them one by one, just in case we have.
Okay,
questions.
just briefly.
Yep, I'm
Yeah,
happy. I'd always like to hear from Anna. I'm more than happy to do that, yeah.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be, you know, cognizant of like, hey, I've really delved into this, and I just have a few questions, or I need more.
Well, yeah, and so if we
Yep.
go one by one, then, yeah.
Yep, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I kind of want to see how you processed like our work together and how it
Comes
distilled
together, yeah.
into this.
100%, not a problem.
And for anyone who's just watching and wondering, also, just for what it's worth, for transparency. We all have had the opportunity to talk with Anna ahead of time as well. I've shared all sorts of random questions as well. Already responded to them, so. This is not just like the first time we're seeing this.
Yeah.
But a walkthrough would be good.
Okay. All right, so under whole child growth and success, the team took a look at some of the areas that the board indicated that were important to them. And we had a lengthy discussion looking at our survey results and some of our student data around the idea that there's a desperate need for us to close some gaps in achievement and to accelerate the growth of our students, and that those came out as top priorities from the board when we held our workshop, right? In terms of academic achievement. And then one of the other key pieces that we took away was that some of the things that make our schools special is there are opportunities for our students to engage and be a part of a community, which is also one of our driving parts of our vision. And I think the other piece that came forward is the fact that we saw in our surveys that there was dissatisfaction with the school environment from students and from families, and in one of our schools from our teachers at Parkway. So really working to try to think about how do we, if we're pursuing a vision in which people belong and thrive, they can't do so in an environment where they don't feel welcomed and respected, right? And so moving our outcomes on that student survey to reflect that was sort of one of the areas that we looked at. So to address the idea of growth, we took a look at our STAR test and there's a standard growth percentile, which is a part of STAR that's nationally normed. Mid-range growth is around 40 to 65%, 66% and above is considered to be high growth, right? So we have the ability within our STAR system to set that growth metric at 66 and then measure the percentage of students who are falling in that district wide. So our goal would be for the students at Glen Hills to use STAR as that measure. We can do the exact same thing with Ames Web too, and Ames Web also has some normed predictors around projected growth for students. So what this goal does is allows us to set a goal that expresses to our staff and our community and our board this idea that we're not just going to grow students one year to the next, we're going to accelerate growth, right? Because it's important for us to move our students and knowing that they're going to be going to a high school that's also challenging and rigorous, that we want to make sure they're ready for that. And our data is showing us that we have students who are below proficiencies, we want to accelerate that. So that's how that goal came to be. So in this first year, we looked at 2024-25 as the first year of our 5-year strategic plan. We would not have data for our Parkway students because we'll be using Ames Web, so that's not applicable right now, but we will be pulling baseline data this year. And we do have data for our students at Glen Hills in both reading and math that we can look at. So right now we're sitting at about 36%. So the goal of hitting that 75% would be a metric that we'd be seeking to reach in that 5th year of the strategic plan. Okay.
Oh, there's just a column missing. That's what's happening. I was like, it's 5 years of data you're looking at, and 28-29 is the 5th year, right? I'm looking at my website. Oh, sorry. It's me.
No, there's only
Wait,
4 columns.
I'm missing.
Four-
Oh, okay,
four
okay.
columns.
So 27-28 is that's just a, okay, formatting thing. I was trying.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
There should be a 27-28 in there.
Yeah,
Yep, it's missing.
okay.
There should be 5 columns, right?
There should be
Yeah,
5
yeah,
columns in there.
Okay.
There absolutely should be. Thank you. Good note.
Not
I
Yeah.
can do it in 4.
Yeah, no.
Yes, make sure reading isn't happening.
Yeah.
What do you know?
I do, and I banked out like what percentage we need to make each year to get to that, which is
Oh,
how we
okay.
set our school and our district,
Right,
right?
right.
And so like that's our way of looking at that. Mhm.
Okay.
All right. The other indicator was looking at gap closure, and so we did a dive into looking at where some of that gap closure exists, and we looked at our student subgroups. So we looked at our white and non-white students, we looked at our low income and non-low income students, we looked at our special education students, our non-special education students, and looked for where those greatest gaps exist. And the greatest gap that we see in our district is the gap between white and non-white students, right? Which matches very much into our idea of being a culturally responsive district and shows that we have big work to do there. Right now, the gap that exists in STAR is 32% gap at Glen Hills in reading and 38% in math. We will get baseline information from Ames Web this year for Parkway. And what the goal would be is to make that be 0. We don't want to see those gaps. And I know that that is an ambitious goal, and but it's one that I feel like if the commitment of our district is what it is, it's what we should be striving for.
So that's the summary gap, some sort of average gap
Yep.
for all non-white students versus white students.
Yep.
You wanna
Yep.
move that towards 0.
Yep.
Yep, 2-0.
And so when we look at those, we want to make sure that we're moving that gap. Right, and it was I think it was a very clean way to look at it.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking big picture. So you said that you have benchmarks for each year of where you need to be if you
Yeah.
wanna hit that 5-year goal.
Yeah.
And since we're checking in, we'll be checking in on these goals at least annually.
Yeah.
Do you wanna share what the goal is for 25-26 now? Like, I mean, like, is
I'll answer what I think in answer to that. That's not part of setting up the KPIs. That would be part of the district and school goals. That would be the next layer down. First, we would have to establish the KPI, then that administrative work.
we'll have that, okay, because actually that was a big picture question I had. I was trying to see, so it's strategic plan, right? It's pillars, but then the pillars have the the things that we wrote here are our 5-year objectives, like the blurbs
Yep.
under the pillars,
Yep.
right?
5
So
years.
those are 5-year objectives.
Mhm.
So then the KPIs are the next level of, are we gonna meet those objectives, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and then you're saying that every year,
Those are
the
sub,
building improvement plans, the school improvement plans
So-
are the
Right, so what you're doing is,
district goals for that year.
yeah, what you're
Right.
doing in capturing that year by year data is showing whether we went up or down. So to your point, Danielle, I would wanna
okay.
bank that out, cause I'm looking at
Oh,
it as
that
like,
makes sense,
like
yeah.
incrementally in my head, it's like, oh, that needs to move 2% every year,
Okay.
whatever. But if we don't move next year, then we have to move forward in the following year,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So like, there's different ways to that, we're gonna have to assess that as we look at district improvement plans annually.
Okay,
And then when we move through our next strategic cycle, so probably in our 4th year of our strategic plan, we're gonna start looking at the next strategic
Right.
plan. And we'll start to think about different KPIs for 5 years
Mhm.
going again.
okay,
Does that
No,
make sense?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely,
Alright,
thank
perfect.
you.
Yep,
But, okay,
Yeah.
but the district plan then is one that's like a next thing that
Yeah.
you will do with your admin team, but like. We'll get clued into that at some point,
Yep.
or like it'll be shared with us at least.
yeah, so
Okay.
you're gonna have access to this internal piece, so on the
Okay.
other side, so for example, for our plan is that we would set up, then we're breaking that down to say by each trimester. As a district, we're going to have certain milestones that we're trying to meet and measures that we're gonna collect to see if we're on track to that.
Okay, got it.
And then the schools will say, they're gonna pretty much be looking at whole child growth and success, right? I mean, that's gonna be their kind of their focus, is the schools will say, what are we doing at like the classroom level to move our school goal, which is the district goal, which moves the KPI.
Thank you.
the other thing. Yeah, right. The other thing I think that it's important for me to keep in mind, I think, as board members, is that KPIs aren't. They're not like universal measures of everything that matters. They're just the key indicators that we've decided to track as like, good illustrators. Right? They're not universal, they're a pruned subset of everything that matters. That allows us to get illustrative data showing progress. So for instance, like this one, of course, I'm immediately thinking, oh, we should look at gender, we should look at income disparity, all these things, but. I know that this one measure is in fact a key performance indicator. And the work that revolves around that will.
And if it moves, you might see those.
Right, and also,
Right.
and also I know it doesn't mean, or I'm pretty sure Anna will make sure it doesn't mean, right?
That's
That we're not paying attention to all the other equities,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah.
foundational to equity work that we don't only focus on.
Yes.
But this is just the indicator, if we vote
Yeah.
for it, that we would say, this is how we're gonna just dip into this and see how we're doing, right? It's hard when we've been in the weeds to kind of
Yeah.
envision ourselves back out and.
I just have never, we just have never had this in our
Yeah.
district.
Yeah.
I mean, and you also think about like the intricacy and the overlap of a lot of work, right? So if I'm doing, like, if I'm thinking about if we're moving to instructional practice and within our teacher work and evaluation system, that's really focused on some core components that are aligned to our vision. Then knowing your students means you know your students, right? It doesn't mean you just know students who need to move in this metric, it means you know all students, you should see that carry over, so it's kind of like.
Yeah.
There are many factors that feed something.
Mm.
And that's why I say like these can be revised, we may find that like, we may look at our survey data from next year and see another area really move and be like, oh. That's the indicator we moved, right?
Yeah,
We're kind of, it's a little bit of guesswork on how we're
Yeah,
gonna move it, but we just
yeah.
wanna see the growth at the end of the day.
yeah.
Alright, so for school environment, the team looked at the, within the, student survey summary, there's an area, Chris has it over here, thanks Chris, for my tutorial. Environment was one of the 4, index areas that can be measured against other school districts, right, who are like us. And so our measurement in that area was a 3.62, that was the lowest score that we had on that survey index. Because other indexes were connection, learning, and experience, and so. And it also sits lower than our comps, so we thought that might be the index measure that we wanna move. School perception has some formula where they pull questions that feed into that indicator. I don't know exactly what those questions are, I keep that kind of under wraps. But there are certain questions that feed into that, so, we felt like that kind of lays into that idea of potentially what it is specifically that we wanna try to move in the experience of students. And so it's a little bit more narrow. I know when we looked at the parent one, we looked at like overall satisfaction. The area that we struggled with is on the survey, the overall satisfaction question indicator that they look at is, I like to come to school most days, which feels like. Depending on a day, like, I felt like having multiple questions feed an index was more impactful than that particular question, that's why we looked at that. The only thing I don't like about it is that it says, I like being at school because it's safe, warm and fun, and I think that some kids might gauge whether or not it's the temperature.
Yeah, warm.
Warm is a weird,
Brightly,
warm is a
or-
weird word, and I would like to talk to school perceptions about why they use that term. I'm sure they've done their own research on it, but I feel like it's an odd word that would maybe not resonate with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can I clarify then, sorry, because
Yeah.
it says school environment score, but you are saying that. You are going to judge the score of this particular, that I like being at school.
That's the descriptor that they give in the environment.
Well, okay, it's
Index.
not the,
Yeah.
okay, so
It's
it
not the
is,
actual
it is
question.
this, it is more questions,
Yeah.
that- okay, just. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
and I
that's
don't, and maybe
confusing.
that I should pull that out in quotes and just say the school for the school environment index.
Yeah,
right?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's because I think that's
Uh-huh.
where that is, right?
Mhm.
It's-
Yeah.
It's goofy. Okay.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was.
Yep.
And I wondered, the one under experience, to me, sounds pretty environmental too.
Yep.
And maybe a little more grown up. For our middle schoolers, I'm
Mhm.
accepted, respected, and have the support I need to be successful at school.
Yeah.
Now, we scored a little higher on that one, and that's probably why you did pick that one.
Right, right.
Like a champ.
I think we landed on that, Chris, I think it's a good point, and we landed on that, because we had a lot of conversation, we've been having a lot of conversation around the word belonging,
Mhm.
right? And so, thinking about that idea that belonging is such an important part of it, and that idea of feeling like safe and like that, but I think we landed on environment in that way because of that, because that speaks to like belonging, and I know. When we had our discussion with the board, Katie, you brought up that component around, like, if kids don't feel safe. Like safety first, right?
Right.
So like, almost like I need to feel safe before I can feel respected, and since we're scoring low in that, we thought maybe moving that indicator would move the other one too, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
When I think about safety and belonging, I think about a very specific question, which is whether there is an adult I can speak with, a safe adult that I can go to share my concerns or, you know, whatever the language is, and whether there are students, peers in a school like this. It doesn't even have to be someone, you know, those are the two things I think of when I think of the way you define whether a person experiences belonging or safety, because a person could be miserable and hate school and still have a sense of belonging. If there's someone in the schoolhouse they can connect with. So that's kind of, as you were speaking, that's where I was thinking, there's so many ways to measure this.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that same question, like, at some point. You just gotta pick something, and it's so fun,
They
right?
do ask that, though.
You have to pick something.
Yeah, they
ask
Yeah,
about
I
the
think they
adult.
do,
Yeah.
right?
They do.
And that probably feeds into whatever the index is, I've got it, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
So, yeah, it is, it's tough, it is tough, but I can understand like the grown up part of it,
Yeah,
but.
yeah.
I think safe is important, you know. Yeah. So key performance indication, the other area that we looked at was participation in school activities. So we have some like boost numbers around participation that Mr. Kaufman has pulled together for us. But I don't feel super, like, what I would like to see is us roster every student in IC and pull a report and have more baseline information there. So we left that percentage blank because we just wanted to do like a percent participation increase. Like we wanted to gauge
Right.
that from year to year, so we saw this as being a baseline year to gather that percentage and then set a goal around it next year. Cause I think that feels like a metric we can move more quickly too by increasing involvement, but I feel like the numbers we have are. The other part of it is. Mr. Kaufman was pulling like straight numbers versus looking at the kid. Does that make
Right.
sense? And so
Yeah.
there's duplication there, and so it's not a clear, like the numbers are messy, it's not great
Right.
data.
You need to know how many
Yeah.
kids, not
Not, yeah.
the total number
So
of
like one
touches.
activities.
Yeah,
Well, then you would also do one kid, they're doing 3 activities, you would wanna know, like, that's 3 kids doing 3 activities.
And that's why we put one or more activity, right? So
Right.
so that we could then look at that measure, so that if that makes more sense, why that's blank right now.
so if we adopted this KPI, then would you asterisk it for now?
Yeah.
With like a comment,
Look at comment, yeah.
percentage TBD
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on data collected in the fall or whatever, something like that.
But so you won't have, you'll have baseline data next year from which you would set a goal.
Mhm.
And then you would have a goal for 26, 20. So you would have a goal for the 3 years of the
Yep.
tail end.
Well, you'll still be able to get the data from last year, right? You're just still working on it.
It's a little bit tricky to pull it out. It would take some sifting to do it, it would be cleaner for us, it would be cleaner for me, like data in, data out, right? So I have a brother-in-law who says you can organize the forks as they go in the drawer, out of the drawer, I kind of look like I need them organized in, so I know where to grab from. I need the data organized, because like right now, it would be like a matter of me looking at
Yeah, I agree.
a lot of different spreadsheets that Mr. Kaufman must have, and I can certainly task him with that, and sure he'd be delighted to.
I agree, I agree.
Yeah, but,
Better to start fresh and get.
yeah, I would like, and then I would like to, that way, if it's entered consistently, then our numbers are also consistent, right?
Right.
And there weren't any other performance or indicators that you thought might illustrate like the extracurricular, like participation. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think of some, like the number of activities available, but we know we have a lot. Those, you don't necessarily want them to grow.
Well, yeah, and it's
But-
one of those things where we also are seeing, like, we can also like stretch a capacity too, because one of the things that we see is that we have a lot of students who do everything, right?
Right.
So to me, it's about increasing the quantity of students who participate in what we offer, and that may look like the creation of new clubs, or it may look like the combination of clubs to get more students interested in having a bigger pool. That's the part that's a little, because sometimes our teachers are kind of like
Yeah.
biting over saying students.
I see that.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some drama over this was something we talked about a couple of, like, I think before last year, when we were kind of hungry to get more data about like student
Yeah.
involvement and extracurriculars. But I mean, the other thing I think about is demographics.
Yeah. If we put that information into IC, I can pull out demographics.
Right, so I guess I'm like, is there any kind of equitable supplement or add in here to like, we might increase the. I don't know, if you expand the percentage of students involved, you're looking at individual students. So I'm just wondering,
Like, would that be,
but maybe that's a revision once you have baseline data or something, but.
or that, I mean, or I
Just
think
like-
that's probably something that we need to orientate ourselves to as administrators within our districts and school plans.
Yeah,
Right, like that may be where that's something that lives a little bit deeper there, so to better that.
yeah,
And also, if it turned out the data showed that there were massive inequities across school,
Then
boards,
yeah,
then you
revise
could
it.
hypothetically come back and revise the KPI
Right.
saying the problem isn't participation, the problem is
Who's
some sort of discriminatory impact. You know what I mean by
Yeah,
like inequitable impact, I mean,
yeah.
who we're reaching, you could hypothetically come back and say, let's revise this and
Yeah.
focus specifically on a
Equitable
target that
participation.
might relate to gap issues, right? I mean, you're
Mhm.
seeing the stacking of this,
Yeah, you could.
Mhm.
all related.
Or the parent.
I think,
Okay,
I
yeah,
think it's a really important measure for us to start taking into.
Yeah.
I do, because it impacts a lot of other areas that we're trying to move, right?
Yeah.
Academics, sense of belonging, all of those things.
relationship with
Yeah.
teachers,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm. Okay.
So the other key performance indicator that we put into this area was high school readiness. So I had the opportunity to speak with staff at Nicolay and pull information. Right now, there could be some slight movement on this with students who recover credit over the summer, but right now 97.56% of our students are on track to graduation. And that means that they've successfully earned 6 or more credits in their 9th grade year. So when you look at credit attainment to graduate from high school, you need a certain number of credits to go. the way that you get there is by making adequate progress yearly, right? If you're credit deficient, typically you don't move into your sophomore year, you're still sitting as a senior, right? So this is a way for us to measure how our students are performing at Nicolay, which is where the majority of our students go. I also had some other data points that they're sharing with us that around like looking at grade point average as well of our students there. And so that is information that I would see falling into our next strategic plan as we have an opportunity to dig into that a little bit. Like, I want to know a little bit more about like what kind of courses there were, there's a lot that feathers into that, right? To determine like, are our students pushing themselves in more highly academic courses and, and being able to talk to some of our high school students. I see that as something that I would like to see Glen Hills potentially dig into a little bit more in terms of some pulse interviews with students.
So this 97.5%, this is reflecting the current rising sophomores.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
I'm working the numbers at 2.5% of 80 or 90 students. That's
Well,
just like a couple
yeah.
of kids.
It's a
Yeah.
couple of kids.
Yeah.
I just don't know this one. I'm like, if we wanna know how well our students are doing, to me, the amount of credits they're completing is not in the ninth grade year, like we know those students. I don't know what else I'd like to see. I think GPA would be interesting. I think, what about seniors taking, or juniors or seniors taking advanced courses, or I don't know, I just like this, I don't like, also it's 98%, so you wanna move 2% in 5 years. I mean, that feels like a really easy thing, and I don't know if it's telling, I don't know what it's really like.
I would look at it also as saying like, as setting that marker should be an expectation, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if we're sending students to ninth grade, their ninth grade year is gonna be particularly a result of our work. I think it would be very hard to say, because our students went to middle school here, that in their senior year, we can own responsibility for where they're at.
yeah,
Like, there's many hands and many people and many learning opportunities that have taken place at Nicolay that influence that,
Yeah.
right? So
yeah,
I feel like looking at our ninth graders is an appropriate indicator of our ability to ready them for high school, which is what we're doing at this level of education, right?
yeah, I understand that. That makes sense to me. I still just don't, I just like on track to graduation, I feel like
Yeah.
that's a great number, 98%.
It's okay to track great numbers.
It is.
That's kind of my reaction too. It's okay to have some KPIs
Right.
that are celebrating places we're already celebrating and pushing us to just be perfect.
And I think one of the key indicators that I would see is that, in the community survey, when we asked, the biennial community survey, whether we do a good job of preparing students for Nicolay, we had a high percentage, but it wasn't super high, right? So I also think there's an ability for us to demonstrate to our community that we are in fact preparing students to do the work that they need to do at Nicolay. And I believe that all indicators are pointing to the fact that we are, but it's just a way of placing that in the community's purview to say, it is 100%, and we're not there yet. And so there are a few kids who are sending into that space that aren't attaining that, and it should be 100%.
Okay, I mean, I think like that if it's a few kids that we might not have control over all of the circumstances that might influence why a child is not on track to graduation or hasn't completed 6 credits. So again, like from a community perspective, it's not telling, it just doesn't feel like it's telling me that Glen Hills is doing this great job, but that I think that's what I would expect. But it's fine, I mean, it's just not my.
That's not necessarily what the community.
Right.
Well, what they did say, but the community did say we do a good job of preparing.
But not that good.
What?
It wasn't like they
But I don't think they mean, I think of it as how well are they doing at Nicolay, not how many classes are they completing. You could complete a class with a C, you could, or or just
But
get
this is-
I or a D.
This is how
right?
Nicolay tracks it though.
Yeah.
They count credits towards graduation.
Oh,
This
high
is how
school.
the high school
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
measures on track to graduate. Do you have enough credits with good enough grades to graduate, right? That's the lingo you'll learn when you get to high school,
I
right?
just think of that lower bar. That's all, but
Yeah.
I just had a comment off of Danielle's, and I don't know that I agree with this, I'm just bringing up something. We could say pass their math and reading course, or pass their math and English courses.
I mean,
That would be entirely different numbers, and we obviously don't have baseline on that. It would be more rigorous.
I will tell you, I liked this KPI. I think it's a simple, clean measure. Not every KPI has to be focused on an area of deficit, to put it in its plainest terms. I think it's okay to track performance in areas that we are succeeding in. In fact, I think it's an important part of the story we tell. Not just PR, but this is data-based evidence of our success, and it is contrary to what, in my experience, our community believes about Glen Hill students. Our Glen Hill students suck. They go to Nicolay and they're the troublemakers and they're the behavior problems and they're the ones who need the most interventions, blah, blah, blah. But what we see is the freshmen, the students we send get to Nicolay and they are very, very successful. They're getting their credits. They're moving forward. And I feel really good about that. And I think I would love to track that. I would love to have 5 years and get that to 100%. That I would celebrate. So just for what it's worth,
that's good.
I like this one.
Well, then I would just, to go back to the participation in school activities, then I wonder if you think about celebrating what we already do or offer, like how many clubs or just overall participation, like if you could take out the doubling of students or whatever, but like what percentage of students are involved in one activity, or like how many, I don't know, I'm thinking like, we obviously have a lot to celebrate there, but we're not taking advantage of celebrating like what we offer for extracurriculars. It's just something to think about. I'm not saying change it now.
I guess without baseline data, I think our baseline data will show that it's a celebration. And we
Yeah,
can just move it.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you can move on. I still don't want it. Not everybody has to look.
All right, so I just want to point out we're at 7 right now, and so
Right.
just
Can we move more? Is everyone comfortable kind of blipping quickly through these? Let me get a read on whether folks think we would be able to vote on this, or whether you think we want to have Anna come back at the next meeting with a couple of the changes that we're suggesting. And we could get
I
through
really
it.
good vote on. I can vote on this.
We could vote on this today, okay, with a couple of revisions that we've gone through. Okay, how about we just, we pump it up and go fast for the remaining key indicators.
I'm pumping it up, okay. All right, so key performance indicator for exceptional staff and exceptional leadership is the next area. And we looked at by the end of the 28-29 school year, the district would retain 95% of its staff. We looked at our number right now, we're at 91%. That does not include any retirement or elimination of positions. I know there was some, Carla, I know you had asked me a question about whether or not that sends an erroneous message, because retirement could be an indicator of retention too, and so.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
don't know.
I'm comfortable doing no elimination that's there and just giving a straight percentage of like how many people leave in a year. If that feels cleaner to the board, I don't.
Do you know what that number would be?
Let's see, we had 2 retirements, so I'm just probably gonna bump it to like 92 or 90% probably.
I don't have strong feelings, it's just, you all saw my ruminations, right? I just don't know, I just know from the private sector,
Yeah.
large companies downsize, they monkey with these numbers through retirement and
Gotcha.
retention. I know that's not what we're doing.
Right.
But I just, I think about like front facing, what does it look like? How do we create exceptions? Do we?
Mhm.
I just don't know. I'm comfortable with whatever you think is the right way to track it, but
I would keep it like it is.
keep the retirement.
Excluding retirement and
Yeah.
elimination of position, because
Yeah.
what you're looking at is people who are leaving unexpectedly, like retirement is generally.
You're looking at turnover, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's gonna be some natural attrition and turnover because we have staff that
Yeah.
are gonna retire, right?
Right.
And it's, do you want that as part of that number or not, right? And I mean, it does give the community a picture of just kind of the movement that's happening.
Right.
I will say that Michelle pulled a nice research report on turnover rates within the state of Wisconsin, which is actually, we're not in bad shape
We're
at
doing
all.
pretty good.
Yeah.
What is like an average, what is, or like, what is,
I think it's 85%.
Wow.
Yeah.
for schools particular or Wisconsin, like all of like schools?
In
Oh.
particular.
That's
And not,
really low.
and this is teachers, not admin, okay, okay.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our retention rate includes our paraprofessional, I mean, it's all inclusive.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was teacher retention rate specifically, it's like 85% typical.
Okay. I like it.
We don't want any. The next one, it was overall staff satisfaction. So the question for staff around overall staff satisfaction kind of boils down to like, would you recommend this as a place of work to others?
Yeah.
Which to me indicates like feeling supported, feeling like you have adequate pay, it's all the things, right? So by the end of the 28-29 school year, we would be looking at an 8.5 out of 10 on our survey. Right now, we're at 6.38. So that's a pretty big jump, but we're committed to trying to make that.
Yep.
To move, okay? And then the other area was looking at an opportunity for professional growth. So when we looked at that area in terms of an individual question that we felt would have a really good movement indicator to help staff, because it was this idea that came out within exit interviews and also within some teacher comments at the end of the year about the need for clarity, consistency, and support, right? So like having those opportunities to be developed, and I think going back to Chris's piece, like when you looked at that component of not having the skill piece missing, it causes anxiety, right? So like to me, this felt like to the team when we were talking, like a very important metric to me because of that. Yeah. And I think it also, gets at the fact that a lot of our training and work will be around how do we have universal design of instruction and culturally responsive practices, which I think we'll also see reflected in our student work, right? So it kind of ties together.
You know what I really like about these indicators is that they're taking the voice of our staff. That's the measure. I really like that.
And our community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the other areas of empowered community, and so what we looked at, overall parents and family satisfaction. So again, we looked at that survey, which was would I recommend our district to somebody else who has school age children, right? And so that also measures a lot of the different metrics, right? And so looking at that and measuring that, our current score is 6.64, and we'd be looking at moving that to an 8.5 out of our students, out of a 10. And then the other opportunity was for parental involvement. So there was a question on the survey that indicated to parents that they had the opportunity for parent involvement. And so that's what the question is asking of them. And then what we were looking at is right now that sits at 85%. We're looking at moving that to 95% to try to increase the sense of feeling like they can be involved. So that was one of the indicators that was there. I struggled with this one. We struggled as a team to talk about like, are we measuring the number of opportunities? And then it was like, well, it's not really the number of opportunities, it's the impact of how somebody felt like they contributed, right? And how do you get at that, right? There's a lot of other pieces that are kind of tangled, and I don't know that this question fully measures it, but it's maybe a metric that we can see a movement on, because we know that in our parent focus groups, the idea that parents want to get into our schools again.
Right.
And I think that was kind of, we've talked about it feeling like that, the push out during COVID and the inability to come in is something we're trying to reverse at this point.
When I look at this one, I think about how many families actually take the survey.
Yep, that's the other part. Yeah.
So 95% of I don't know what the percentage was, 30, 40, whatever.
Yeah.
It was decent according to perceptions, but then it's like, I would like to see that increase maybe too. Because then if you have more I don't know, because 85% doesn't necessarily reflect to me what I feel like we're hearing from parents in terms of like, I wanna be in, but I don't, or I want more opportunity to see what my kids are doing and put that, so. Yeah, I get, it's a tough one, I don't know what you do with it, but.
Yeah, and I'm not, I think we struggled with that one a lot as a team, but we know it's an area that we need to grow,
Yeah.
right?
And you know where my head goes, I think more about like parent engagement, caregiver engagement. Less about involvement and more about, when I think about student focused thinking, like. Is a caregiver given opportunities to support their students' success through engagement and information sharing with teachers? I think the evidence shows, right, that that's actually more important for student success than like me volunteering in the classroom.
Yeah.
Volunteering opens the door to what really matters, which is parents and caregivers and students sharing information to support student success. So like me gluing paper to the outside of oatmeal bowls matters less than me being in the classroom and now I can talk to the teacher. And they're gonna get to know my student a little better, right? So I already shared with you, and that's where I worry, like, and I get why this is the measure that we have, but in a perfect world, it would be great to get at that like deeper idea, have I had opportunities to share information with the teacher about my child? Or do I feel like they know
There is,
what are,
there is a question on the survey that like. One of the questions is like, I feel informed about my child's progress.
right?
And so like, it almost is, there isn't quite a question that gets at with what you're seeking, and it is more nuanced, like I almost feel like you
Right.
have to. Like focus group that I know, and then I know one of the things that the administrative team is looking at is like some parent engagement around.
Right.
School, opportunities like on a monthly basis, like we've planned some
Right.
of those things out for the upcoming school year. I would love to be able to say like. Parents have a high rating of what the experience is on those, but we've never
Right.
done it before. So I know that I'm
Right, I get
comfortable
that.
pulling
I
that
get
as a
that.
KPI yet.
Yeah, but that's also like the root of that
Yeah.
work is
Yeah.
relationship building,
It is.
right? And restorative practices, but how do you build a district-wide KPI for that? Right, just,
Yeah.
all right, sorry.
No, that's a good point.
It is. So the last indicator there was increasing resident enrollment, right now.
I'll keep being the public informed, so.
Oh, did I miss that one?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so
number
sorry.
48% to
Rolled right past it.
60.
So
Yeah.
this was one that we put into the community survey that went out the previous in 23-24, right? So that's why I put that baseline data there was 23-24. We have two other opportunities to measure this with the broader community, and it's in terms of keeping the public informed, right?
Right.
And how we're doing on that.
Are those years then accurate? Cause you're gonna do a community survey every,
Every other year,
23, 25, 28.
that
That's
should
like
be
a,
27, 28.
Yeah.
Instead of 20.
Yeah. I
okay,
need to
okay,
ask, I need to.
just check.
Yeah.
So every 2 years, okay.
Yep.
Right.
And then, the other indicator was to increase resident enrollment, so by the end of the 28-29 school year that we would have. The percentage of students, opting to open enroll out of the Glendale-River Hills School District would be lower than 5%. So right now, we're at 11% of students opting out, and the only thing that we can truly measure, so I wanna be very clear with this, is I can only measure open enrollment out to other public school districts, right? I can't get it private.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't, I mean, like, could we ask? Like, do you think like St. Monica, St. Eugene's would tell us how many Glendale residents are students?
Well, we've asked DPI to help provide some of those measures, so we know where our students are, so we can meet our child find obligations.
very
So it's
good.
very hard to ferret that information out.
From the DPI.
Yeah, like we can, from DPI, I can go in and look at who's elected to open and roll out and like pull those numbers in a very
Yeah.
concrete way.
Right.
I can't do it in a concrete way, it would be like kind of pecking to find others.
I'm just wondering if it's an opportunity for like partnership building or like developing relationships with the private schools in our area, like if it's just like a friendly ask, we're just trying, I mean, well, I don't know, maybe they, but.
Open enroll seems like a good dipstick, right?
Yeah.
It's a dipstick that's easy to access.
I think a lot of the kids resident kids I know though, go to private schools, so I think you're missing out, but.
There's some numbers that aren't represented here. I know last year I kind of calculated a percentage by looking at our census data. And then saying like how many students between that age range live here, and that's kind of, I mean,
Okay.
but that's also kind of
Okay.
a guesstimate, right?
Okay, I mean, this is definitely, I like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then moving into equitable stewardship, when we talked as a board, we talked a lot about, the idea that we needed to re-up our 10-year capital maintenance plan. So we've had a recent building assessment, under previous leadership that Michelle and I will be working on to develop that 10-year capital maintenance plan, and specifically in terms of looking at meeting a percentage of kind of tackling that capital maintenance plan, and planning for it and making sure that we're meeting those needs was, the board focus on accessibility and safety for students. And so when we look at accessibility and safety, what Michelle and I would do is break those components of the 10-year capital maintenance plan that have been recommended to get fixed. And then look at what percentage of those projects are we finishing in a year, right? On an annual basis. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does.
Mhm.
But I got the vibe that our current capital maintenance plan is flawed or needs work or.
I don't know that we have a current, we have a capital maintenance plan that was approved that was approved in what, 2019 or 2020?
Yeah,
It
okay.
was 2019 or 2020, so it really needs to be revisited and re-upped. So like, the goal for this year would be for Michelle and I, as a strategy would be Michelle and I need to clean up that plan and bring it back to the board for approval. And then we would gather the baseline information about what percentage of those projects need to be completed.
Okay, so 24-25 is like
Baseline.
it, but that is also, you're saying this year you guys wanna get that capital maintenance plan so that next year you would start being able to collect data.
And this year, we probably will tackle some of those accessibility projects, so we should be able to talk about what percentage we've accomplished over the course of this year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so then, okay. What about a goal, or like, I guess I'm just thinking like, so 25% over 4 years, you get to 100% accessibility? I mean, like, is there a reason? I mean, money, I know, money hanging over it all, but like, as a goal, if we value accessibility, safety, and equity, then why wouldn't we want a goal of in 5 years having our buildings be fully accessible, like ADA, like meeting current ADA standards?
I would 100% agree with that. I mean, we need to be able to serve all students, and right now we have limitations on how we do that because of the structure of our buildings.
Right, and so I'm thinking about how that might push us, because obviously it means money and you have to get the money somewhere. So, I mean, I don't know, because I feel like if you make 25% progress annually, but we've identified like 10 things to fix in our 2 buildings, you know, or I like whatever it is. It's like one accessible bathroom or like fix that one broken curb. I mean, that just doesn't feel like enough to me. And it's clearly very important to me personally, so I don't know if that's, you know, a community, I mean, I do think our community digs into equity, and this is one of the most inequitable things about our schoolhouses at the moment, right? Our facilities.
I will say though, like, to your point, I also agree that doesn't seem like much. But I don't know if you remember this or not, but it came up a discussion of how much money it would cost just to put in accessible doorknobs. Like.
That's to
a
update
huge-
these buildings, so
Right.
if in pushing this, you have to start weighing like certain, like
That's right.
other bigger decisions about.
That's correct.
Are these buildings going to be the buildings that we're able to do this in? And if
Right.
not, then, you know, I know what I think the answer is, right? But again,
So if you're
it pushes
making
us.
25% progress annually on maintenance in areas of accessibility and safety. Yeah, that's a maintenance goal. Maybe it's the words that are,
You could have, I mean,
yeah,
So to me, I would look at, like, for example, I'm gonna give you a more concrete example. So like within the plan, it would be like if you're looking at Glen Hills and we're looking at a capital maintenance plan,
Yeah.
and Michelle and I would take over and break those things, right? You say there are probably 10 things at Glen Hills that need to be fixed, right? Considering our money situation, we would need to allocate, like, what could we do? Like one thing, like one piece of accessibility realistically could cost us 50 grand, right? And
Yeah.
so if we are able to fix 25% in a year, that's a huge investment. It's
Mhm.
huge,
Right,
like monetarily, that is a huge, so that's one project.
and that's not even.
Right, and if there are
60%.
10 things, that's only 10%, right?
Right.
So if we can do 2 to 3 things in a year around what needs to be done, and the list is fairly longer than that, I mean, it's gonna be, you're looking at a very. I think this is an incredibly aggressive chip at what we need to fix.
I think part of what I'm feeling is, and I think it's just the reality of it, we don't have the capital maintenance plan yet. So we're sort of like approving this, not knowing what it's gonna look
Mhm.
like yet.
Yeah.
But again, it strikes me that.
Yeah.
If we approve this, then we'll see the maintenance plan. If we have to revise it, we
Yeah.
need to discuss it more, we can come back to it, put it back on the agenda.
I don't know, I guess I would just say I would propose an alternate indicator of by the year 2029, district buildings will be in ADA compliance or fully accessible. And I know that fiscally, that's not an option currently, and you might not meet that goal, but why would we be striving for anything else? Oh, visitor comment?
Well, let me see if board members have some, any thoughts first, Katie or first, sure.
I just wanted to make the comment that, you know, when there's the study on the Good Hope property, I believe there's like 5+ million to get everything ADA compliant there. I presume, I don't know, but I presume it'd be more expensive in these properties where it's more expensive. One alternative to potentially look at, if it is something you're interested in, is doing a referendum for building modernization for ADA compliance. Sticking it just with ADA compliance, but that you need to know exactly what you need to do and have a dollar cost just to put to the public. Just something to put out there.
Thank you.
I didn't know I was gonna suggest this earlier, so just so you know, that just came out of me, but I'm like, I just, yeah.
I'm sitting here ruminating and processing. I mean, obviously, we want ADA compliance. We've been talking about that for a long time. I think the problem is you've got 4 years left on a 5-year plan, and if you have that as a KPI, the only way you can achieve it is by getting a capital referendum plan passed and building new buildings within 4 years. That's the reality. And I'm not. I don't think that's a good thing to put in a KPI. I think that's a really, really bad idea. That is out of our hands. If you wanted, if that's what your goal is, I want to have the capital referendum passed and new buildings built in 4 years. That's what you should say. Buildings that are ADA compliant, and see if the board will agree to that as a KPI. I think it's putting the cart before the horse. I think it doesn't push the community to think about the issue. I think it would come across as in our current environment as directive, like cart before the horse, telling the community, we can do this, you haven't approved it yet, but we're making this hurdle. I think it would be counterproductive. I think we have to be realistic about where we are now, come back to it. We know we're gonna be talking about referendum in a year or two ahead. I don't know.
Ambitious, I'll give you, I mean, so is closing a 30% achievement gap, but just because it's possibly not going to happen, doesn't mean it's something we shouldn't explore. Maybe capital referendum is the only way to do that, but if you are striving for more accessibility, 100% accessibility, you could still make 25% benchmarks or progress every year on these buildings. It is a directive, it's a directive to explore how do we get there.
No.
That's what I'm
It's-
saying it
The
is.
KPI would be a directive to accomplish it. That's what a KPI is. It's a directive to accomplish. It's
Yeah.
not an exploration. That's not the purpose of a KPI,
Okay, but
right? It's a performance indicator,
yeah,
not
I
a
think that,
situation indicator. So if you go back to the.
I hear what you're saying.
Right, if you go back to the model Chris brought to us in the grounding, right? So this would be an example of, as we think about this, resources. Can you ask the district leadership team and all the staff to both push really aggressive goals around learning for students and intensely somewhat, like out of the ballpark goal around updating buildings? Like, is that a realistic burden to put on district staff? I mean, I'm not saying I know the answer.
No, I hear you.
I'm just one voice. I mean,
I think then I would I think then it's what you're saying, tying it to the capital maintenance plan that doesn't truly exist yet, like, to me, I don't know what 25, like. This is going to end up being a very sad movement towards making like.
So I guess the question is like thinking about our work and sort of the community's call for fiscal transparency and really getting to look at writing our district financially, which was the call and the reasons that we put into looking at the referendum, right, is try to straighten that ship and have a clear fiscal path forward. Maybe that goal doesn't fit here as a KPI, and it, like Michelle and I doing the work on the capital maintenance plan, which needs to happen regardless, whatever the KPI is work that we still embark and engage on, but maybe it is looking at some of those pieces around fiscal transparency, fund balance, and the balance budget,
so
right?
take out KPI one
It's kind of what I'm thinking, yeah.
and just come back to this issue later then, yeah.
That would
Would you
be,
feel
that would
like
be
that?
my suggestion, because it seems like without clarity around that capital plan, that there's a level of discomfort about moving forward with that, right? And that feels
Yeah.
fair, right?
Then we would have really clean KPIs for stewardship. We would have transparency and fund balance,
Yep.
which seems like a great starting point.
Mhm.
Oh, and balanced budget.
Yep.
The-
So the idea would be that we would meet the indicator, and again, this is another one of those indicators that's kind of like the indicator around Nicolay. Right now, we've partially met it, but we probably can meet it pretty easily, but I think it's something that needs to be demonstrated that we, right?
Yeah,
Does that make
yeah, yeah,
sense? And then the fund balance, and that would be the indicator, the first one would be maintaining up-to-date financial reports on our district website and holding biannual community budget meetings, right? So making sure that there's, at least those 2 meetings a year, or community has the opportunity to weigh in on that, and that we're making all of our financial information in terms of our reconciliations available on the website for anyone in the public to see.
Is one of those the meeting you do before we approve the budget or the print? That's one, and then is the other one that would be new doing too? Right, so you're adding a second one, okay.
And then the other key indicator would be looking at the fund balance, and so it would be looking at maintaining a 10% or greater fund balance of the prior year's annual budget.
That's the expenditure budget, right?
Yeah. And then the last one would be looking at maintaining a balanced budget, and so it would be looking at the district achieving a balanced budget annually with reserves, right? I mean, the goal would be for us to get to a place where there's reserves as well.
I think the numbers are off here again. So it's from 25, 26 to 27, 28.
Yeah, they're all.
They all have 4 columns.
They all have 4 columns. I need to fix them. Somehow in some way, shape or form, I must have deleted a column and it's missing now.
Okay, well, the
I
blue,
should-
I'm saying the actual indicator goes to the year 27, 28.
Oh, it sure does.
That's what I.
Oh.
And
Right.
is 24, 25 not included because we're not gonna have that this year or something, or?
No, because the audit isn't complete yet.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sorry, in the blue line again, it'll be 24, 25 to 28, 29. Is that,
Yes,
okay,
Yeah.
thanks, that's it.
Yeah. yeah, and it's TBD right now because the audit is still. not
Okay,
complete.
right,
Once the audit
right,
is
right.
complete, we can put that baseline.
Mhm.
All right,
All right, so is everyone comfortable with removing that first KPI for equitable stewardship? Chris? That seemed like a good idea.
So. Yeah, I mean, it just says improve district facilities, that's part of equitable stewardship. And I guess I would say, like, if there's anything else you could think of around maintenance. That could be like, that would be a good place to come back later another time and maybe bring a different KPI.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
maybe it was like, I
facilities.
mean, maybe once. We could look at developing a KPI around that once Michelle and I bring that capital maintenance
Yeah.
plan forward, we
Yeah.
can look at what is
Yeah.
a reasonable amount of chip either at those two areas or in general, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like looking,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think to Carla's point, you raised the question, me and your question prior to the meeting was around the fact that we talk about green infrastructure and sustainability. And
Mhm.
to
Right.
like maybe an emphasis on those projects that would also fit within that category as well.
yeah, that
So
would be great.
it just
That'd
seems
be
like there
cool.
needs to be a little bit more clarity out there to build a
Yeah.
strong.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, great discussion. Any further comments, questions, thoughts about this? This is a huge amount of work. I just want to say, putting together KPIs is a big deal and hard to do. When I think about the strategic planning process, if we're all still around in the 4 years, it would be exciting to go into strategic planning knowing, which we didn't know when we did strategic planning, that this is where the train ends up, right? Because as you write strategic plans, if you can see the end goal, as leadership, we have to write KPIs.
Yeah.
That might have shaped that journey a little differently, right? I know Kelly was there and, yeah, so it's, for me, it's like. Bit of the pieces falling into place now where I'm like, oh, that's.
Yeah.
Something I wish I knew. When we were discussing what specific words should go into a strategic plan, right? It would have been nice if our consultant has told us about KPIs.
I don't know that necessarily would have landed there.
Actually,
Yeah, I don't
that's
know,
true,
so
yeah.
it's just,
Actually, there was one thing I noticed, not in here, and I don't, maybe it's not for KPIs, but like, there's no mention of like state report cards. And I was just curious about that.
We have to post and make public our state report card every year, so that will be on our district website.
So,
these are our internal measures.
right, so I'm wondering like, so some around the whole child growth and success then.
Mhm.
Do you think that if we are doing this kind of movement in these areas that we'll see our state report cards?
Yeah.
Increase? Okay.
So STAR is aligned with, STAR is aligned and is a predictor.
Okay,
And so it's helpful because our students take forward in grades 3 through 8, right? So we won't have, like, we'll have the Ames Book data in 3rd grade, that is like, we can look at and see how kids are moving, but that 4 through 8 data is gonna be really important, because what it does is it sets a predictor, mid-road and then, national norm test is gonna be 50. We set our benchmark up to, I believe, 63 or 64% on that, because the state test in Wisconsin and the achievement on that test is slightly higher than it is nationally. So the bar is already, like, we'll move that bar, and then based on the proficiency here, that's predicted proficiency forward.
Okay.
Right?
okay.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
curious.
so it all kind of ferrets together a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
So what do you guys think? Motion, would you like a motion?
I move to approve and adopt the strategic plan goals and key performance indicators. Minus the KPI number 1 for capital maintenance. Otherwise it's attached to the agenda.
Before there's a second, I'm curious on this recommended motion, Anna, are there in fact, are we approving strategic plan goals or are we just approving the KPIs?
To me, the KPIs are.
Oh, okay,
Sorry, should I just cross that off? I can do that again.
If you wanna just call them KPI.
Sorry.
KPIs, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no confusion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
I move to approve the key performance indicators as we've discussed.
I second.
Any further discussion? Okay, there's a motion by Chris Robinson, second by Danielle Bailey to approve the key performance indicators as discussed. All in favor? Aye. I heard 4 ayes, motion carries. Thank you, Anna.
Thanks,
Anna.
Anna.
For
That's thanks
You
to the
step
team
forward.
for walking through that, cause it wasn't a walk in the park.
But it was a walk in under River Hills, right?
It was.
All right, that's huge. I gotta say, it's, you get to the motion and it's like, boom, 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 but this is a big deal. What we just did. Yeah. Okay. All right, item 4A, WASB business recommendations. Chris.
All right, The Wisconsin Association of School Boards allows school districts to nominate businesses that are very supportive of the district. These businesses are acknowledged on the WASB website. And are one of our district's ways of saying thank you. And I would like to nominate two businesses for this. The first is the Brick Pub and Grill. The Brick has hosted a number of fundraisers and events for our district needs. Has been a donor sponsor for the Foundation Spring Fling. Has provided both food and monetary donations and has provided long-term district support. The second business I'd like to recommend is Glendale Heights Child Care Center. They provide annual donations to the foundation, donated to Fall Fest, provided over $75,000 in child care discounts to district educators over the last 5 years, have collaborative relationships with the kindergarten teachers and K-4 wraparound program, and have provided long-term district support. With a motion, I'd like to be able to nominate these two businesses for recommendations from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards.
Is there a second?
Second.
Right, discussion, Danielle.
I would also add that Glendale Heights threw a really awesome party for the community. Their anniversary when was for the entire community, but I mean, I saw so many of our students there too, so that was just a really special event and I was grateful. Like, do it all the time.
You gotta have an anniversary.
I know, yeah, 36. Anyway, so thank you for that, that was really nice.
I love it. I'm in. Thank you for thinking of this and bringing
Yeah,
this to
thanks,
our
Chris.
attention, Chris, because I've never been aware of it. You,
I think this is absolutely great. I also think the reasoning of why she's doing 2 instead of 5, that she shared with us, is because these two are well documented. And long-term clear supporters. There are a lot of other businesses that are also supporters of the district and possibly long-term, but like it's not as well documented if someone wanted to come and be like, why are you doing this? So in the future, we definitely have some that we're looking at as well.
all right. Did you know this was?
I did not tell Michelle, said, oh, we're on the.
There you go.
What, did you know?
All right, so there's a motion by Chris and a second by Danielle to recognize the Brick and Glendale Heights for the WASB Business Award. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I heard 4 ayes. Motion carries. Awesome. And then Chris, if you need anything from us,
Okay.
you'll
I
just tell
just
us.
have to go to the website and I'll just plug it in, know that I have your approval.
All right. And on to 5A staffing changes.
All right, for board policy 4140, I will be bringing forward a paraprofessional today, which technically I can approve the hire on. I just want to let you guys know that it's happening and it is a replacement and it's not the creation of a position. And then board policy 3120, I've established the terms of employment, which have been included for the board to review, and the board is solely responsible for approving the hires that are being recommended tonight. So I'm recommending the hire of Perry Smith as the 3rd grade teacher at Parkway Elementary. I'm also I'm also recommending approval of James O'Hagan as the Digital Equity Innovation and Library Services Coordinator. I'm also recommending the approval of Roger Harris as our middle school social studies teacher at Glen Hills Middle School. And then also recommending approval of Brittany Gardner as a special education paraprofessional at Glen Hills Middle School.
All right, separate. Should we do them? Do you want to do them all at once?
Well,
Let's do them one at a time. Just in case there's any discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with Perry Smith.
I move to approve Perry Smith as the hire of Perry Smith as 3rd grade teacher at Parkway Elementary School.
All right, motion by Danielle Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Chris, Katie? All right, motion to approve Perry Smith as a third grade teacher by Danielle Bailey with a second by Chris Robinson. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next is James O'Hagan. Did I say that right?
I move to approve James O'Hagan as the Digital Equity Innovation and Library Services Coordinator.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to say for this, one in particular that I want to applaud the creative thinking and all you guys did to create this role, and, I've talked with Anna and I might get the number wrong, but I do believe like at the end of the day, there is a savings to the district of almost 20 or 26,000, something like that.
Yeah.
By the merging and then the creation of this position and the para. I also think it's just gonna improve the breadth and the quality of education our students are gonna get, with both equity and access to library and tech.
Mhm.
So like, it really feels like a win-win, like all around, so I'm really appreciative that you guys will be creative like that and do things that make sense for our district and for our students.
Ditto.
Let's see what he does.
Ditto. Chris, Katie? All right, a motion by Chris Robinson, second by Katie Avalos to approve the hire of James O'Hagan as our new Digital Equity Innovation and Library Services Coordinator. All in favor? Aye. I heard 4 ayes, motion carries. Next is Roger Harris.
I move to approve Roger Harris as a middle school social studies teacher at Glen Hills Middle School.
A second?
Any discussion? Going once, twice. All right, motion by Chris Robinson, second by Danielle Bailey to approve the hire of Roger Harris, middle school social studies teacher at Glen Hills. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And finally, Brittany Gardner.
I move to approve Brittany Gardner as a special education paraprofessional at Glen Hills.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Welcome.
Yeah.
To the wonderful people who chose the best school district in the galaxy.
And they all had impressive resumes too, it's just like this crazy breadth of experience that our students are just gonna eat up, I think, so I'm excited for.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Anna, and everyone else involved in all this hard work. Item 5B, employee handbook.
All right, so I am bringing back around again the employee handbook, with revisions, and revisions based on the feedback from the board. The feedback that I got from the association via the board that we discussed, and then also, our legal counsel as well, weighed in on some revisions, so those revisions have been made, and I'm presenting the final draft of the, employee handbook for board approval for the 25-26 school year.
All right, let's start with a motion. Discuss. Anybody wish to make a motion?
I move to approve the 25-26 employee handbook.
Second.
All right. And we'll start with Chris. Any questions, comments, or thoughts?
I don't think so. Well, maybe. So this, I'm a little confused of where the lawyer weighed in. Is this after the handbook that's attached? Is that taking her suggestions into account?
Yes. Yes.
Because I know she said that we didn't have to include video surveillance, but we are, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
used some judgment, you're like,
I did.
okay.
Okay.
I get that was, yeah.
Yeah, there are some suggestions around some things, and I mean, this is also true within the student handbook, when we align it to our policies, there are things that are considered to be essential and non-essential.
Right.
So there may be some non-essential information in there, but I don't think it's bad information for our staff to have.
I
right?
agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, especially if they're signing and acknowledging the.
That's right.
Too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Katie?
I wanna say that I appreciate all of the tremendous amount of work that went into getting this whipped into shape. From what you started with, so, yep.
The sick days part, so clear, I mean, I just like where it's landed, I wanna say I appreciate that, piggybacking on Chris's though, so. The lawyer did talk about the, extracurricular activities and like volunteer versus stipend versus wages, and I was a little bit confused about. What she was saying, and it didn't look like the language changed at all in that area, so you feel. Do you like, I'm sure you understood what she was trying to say, could you explain that to me?
Yeah, so if we hire our non-contracted staff into a position to say coach after school, and it's similar to their work, and Michelle, you help clarify if I've got any of this wrong, but if we hire them to do work that is very similar in the evening, to do something like working with kids, it could be, they could fall into the capacity of having to pay overtime around that. The way that we write our contracts for both our contracted employees and our non-contracted employees as well as parents is it's a volunteer stipend position,
Okay,
right? So
Okay.
the contract that they receive to do that after school work is written in that capacity to protect us from
Okay.
having to pay. Like basically overworking people, right?
okay.
Yeah.
But Lauren's concern with our language was, or she was just wanted to make sure we understood like the lines. between
Yeah,
those.
and she actually reviewed the contracts as well that we
Oh,
that
okay,
we give to people and
Okay.
gave us a suggestion there, and I think she just wanted to be very
Okay.
clear. Because the way that it was written, there was one little component, so there was like one word I had to change over.
Okay,
So it was
okay.
very minimal.
Which is why I didn't
Just
notice.
to click it,
It did.
because it said something like hired, and I think I moved.
Ah,
I
okay.
shifted like that language just a little bit to volunteer. or
Yes,
something.
okay,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, I had to kind of go back and remember that, because I was like,
Okay.
okay.
Employment categories, I didn't see like a coordinator. Or I guess you have library media specialist, and I don't know if you wanna update that to the new role since we
That's
just
a good
approved it.
Was that?
It's right after it's page 30 or 31 in there, 30.
Okay, yep,
Nice.
good catch, thank you on that one, because that was a new development, so I missed that one.
There was another, and so, page 41. I think this is talking about personal devices, let me just find it real quick, and this is just a typo, but I think it makes a difference. Oh, wait, 41.
I see.
No.
Top of 41.
Do you,
Personal communication devices.
Oh, thank you, I have, my
40 to 40.
pages are, okay.
Here it is.
Okay, it's missing an end parentheses, so regardless, it starts
Oh,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah.
regardless. And then, it, under the second PCD, you just need a parentheses, it's just,
a missing parentheses.
Okay.
Yeah, but it-
Parentheses mentioned.
yeah, it's good.
Significant to potential lawyers.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah.
thank you, okay. And then
Good catch.
I just have I have two questions about sort of like the impact. So there's policy around dress. And there's a policy that requires our staff when they're at after school events or like other things to dress business casual. And I was thinking about that and I was like, do they always? And like, is that really like, is that an important barometer that we have for our staff? Is that like, I don't know, it was just,
I would say most of our teachers like, I guess for me, when I think about it, is like during family teacher conferences, most of
Okay.
our teachers do dress up for that and do change of clothes. So like for me,
Okay.
I kind of see like, to me, that didn't feel like a big stretch or
Okay,
a big
it's
push,
fine.
because I feel like it's practice. Now, if we're doing a fun run, no, right? Like it's contextualized.
yeah,
Yeah.
is it contextualized in the policy
Yeah.
though? That's kind of what, okay.
Yeah, I get what you're
Dress and-
saying.
Yeah, we have a dress and grooming there was something that we talked about
Uh-huh.
offline as well,
Uh-huh.
and we changed the language to be consistent with the policy.
Policy.
It is, but that's an add-on though, the business casual, when you're
Okay.
at events that are not during school time. Okay, anyway, small thing, I was
And
just
I can
curious, like,
clarify that to just reflect like family teacher conferences.
I mean, if that's what you mean, I don't know,
Sure.
cause I'm like, anyway, it was just a thing, and I could just see a thing where maybe somebody gets in trouble for not doing it, and that, or whatever, someone tries to enforce it, but it could be.
The range of what people qualify as business casual.
That's true too, like,
There's
so
a
we could have a
wide
whole
range,
meeting on
right?
that. Okay, the one on social media, so there was that social media piece, there's like very strong language, sorry, I didn't my page numbers, anybody know where this is? It prohibits staff from posting or naming or anything on their personal social media students. And like, okay, so I think about Mrs. Morale,
Yeah.
who often posts a
Yeah.
lot about things, and I think that's her personal page.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if this policy now prohibits that, and like,
Yes.
what, okay. Okay, and
Right, which our policy has.
Which our Neola policies do, and I think it's a
Okay.
matter of renorming that and drawing attention to that for the staff.
Okay.
And I have already, like indicated in my conversations with the association.
okay,
And we're gonna do a session on the handbook as part of our back to
Okay.
school orientation to kind of talk about some of those changes.
okay,
I do think it is really important though, when we think about the safety of our children, that we're not. When you post something and you know where you work and you show pictures of children, then other people know where those children are during the day, and that is a safety risk. And
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable doing that with
yeah.
other people's kids, right?
Right, I just, okay, no, that's the information I was
Yeah.
looking for, and then I guess I would say though that I know a lot of people in the community or district, maybe like follow teachers who do that. And therefore, like, maybe there's gonna be a gap, and like the school or the district could look to
Well,
fill that.
the gap would be filled by that information being sent to the district.
Yeah,
The
that's what,
district posts it,
exactly,
and
but that's,
Ms.
yeah,
Morale can
that's-
still celebrate by linking to.
That's right.
the
that's,
district.
okay, great, that's what
Take the
that's what I'm
district
trying to.
That's what I had envisioned, would
Yes.
be the solution.
Yes,
You still get all the same information, it's just filtered
great,
just in case, because then the district can track whether you have permissions.
Yeah.
for
Right.
Particular faces that are,
okay, yeah,
right, because that's the issue.
yeah.
Yeah,
And parents sign a media release for their child's image to be used for the district, not for someone's personal.
True,
So,
okay,
like,
no, that's,
think about that, that's why
Yep.
that exists.
and I wasn't just trying to call it Miss Farley,
no,
but
it's
it's not the one, I know.
to protect
but
her
it's
too,
not
we
just
wanna
her.
make sure.
Yeah, I know, it's not just her,
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
point, that's
Several
my
teachers.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that was all I had, I also appreciated the now complaints or like the grievance procedure, I think you've done a good job of sort of walling off like grievances and cutting off complaints from like staff that aren't actually within board purview, because you just have the grievance procedure outlined, there's no like, there's nothing else to taint it, it's very clear.
Yeah.
And then, otherwise, there's good language in there that like whatever is covered in board policy is still something, right, but I appreciated that clarity
Mhm.
and that kind of just, yeah, that's all, so thanks.
I got nothing, I mean, I do, what I wanna say is that what's great about the employee handbook this year is that you brought it to us many times.
Yeah.
And as a board, gave us many opportunities to review and give you feedback, and I really appreciate that you've been open to our feedback and respectful and responsive to our questions, and it just gives me a lot of confidence that all the work that needs to be done has been done, and that we can defer to, what you've put together, and we see that you're working with the lawyers, you're working with your leadership team, you're engaging participants, so love it, I love seeing that process happening well. So, thank you. All right, Chris, have you got a chance? Oh, yeah, you did, right, yep. Okay, all in favor of, motion, what's the motion? Motion by Daniel Bailey, second by Chris Robinson, to approve the 25-26 employee handbook. All in favor? Aye. I heard 4 ayes, motion carries. Would it be all right if we take a 3-minute break? We've been through a lot, just get up and stretch before finances. If there is no objection, we'll take a brief break, everybody breathe. Be back in 3. Laughing.
Okay.
All right, is everyone ready? We're back online. Item 6A. June 2025 finances.
So, the June 2025 finances show, the activity for the fiscal year. This is unaudited, there are still some changes, still invoices coming in, and some transfers that need to be made. To Fund 27 and to Fund 50. So. This is showing, each fund, the updated budget, for revenues, the fiscal year to date revenues, again unaudited. The budgeted expenses, and I see we have a couple of typos in there, I apologize for that, 24, 25. The fiscal year to date expenses, so. The general fund, the revenues were slightly over budget. This was due to additional Medicaid funds from previous years, and then also interest payments, interest earnings. And then budgeted expenses are under, and looking at those, there's several areas where they were under, and again, this is unaudited, so there are gonna be a few more changes here. I expect probably $300,000 to $400,000 in changes.
That's a big under. That's
It
fantastic.
is, I'm projecting that once everything is paid, comes in and paid and transfers made, that will be about $800,000 under budget. Those areas that were different, they came in under certified staff, expenses. Benefits, mainly health insurance, and then, open enrollment out in personal services, and then people travel, and then some of the utilities.
So we had less open enrollment help than we anticipated.
Yes, and several students moved in during year too, so.
And
Great.
exciting, we have several more that
Yeah.
moved in.
So I'm trying to lure some more into. I mean, my best friends are moving.
Realtors.
Yeah.
So, project fund balances, what we're looking at right now, I'm projecting with the. Expenses that need to be paid that were coming in, Fund 10 ending the year with 6.75 million fund balance, that's just a projection. Fund 21 has a $56,097 fund balance. A big piece of that is that the PTO, the foundation paid for the fence project at Parkway ahead of time, so we've already had those revenues, but we haven't expended the money yet.
How much did they donate?
I believe it was from 40,
Mhm.
41.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's all the funds cost. 41,000?
That's what the foundation donated.
Oh, okay.
no, that's the full cost of the.
Oh, that's a full cut.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's a partial fence.
Right,
that
right.
Run right around the,
Area.
the drive around area and then down.
Yeah.
Out to the baseball fields, so just kind of,
Sweet.
just kind of around where the playground is to create a barrier between the street and the playground to help
I hesitate to say
slow down our
that,
runners.
but we probably have to approve that donation.
Oh,
Don't we? Did we?
do you have to approve foundation?
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
it's a.
Yeah, we probably do.
We probably need to bring that up. Yeah, I think we need, I think technically.
Go through.
I don't know, I just need to think about it.
Sorry.
I need to think about it first. I need information.
So what's
I'm on the fence.
My apologies.
Oh.
My apologies is I'm new to this landscape.
Oh.
Donation.
Literally,
Yeah.
landscape.
Yeah.
I just remember there's some kind of, I just wanna make sure we cross our T's.
Good job.
Yes, thank you, Carla, I appreciate that, and we'll get that on our next meeting. Nothing, no ground has been broken and it still needs to get approval for to go to the common council for the park.
Okay.
So we're still waiting on that.
Cool.
Fund 38, anticipating a fund balance of 46,100 $117. Fund 46, fund balance of $221,085. Fund 50 will have a 0 fund balance. And Fund 80 has a 2.25 million fund balance. One other big area too with the additional funds or underspending the budget was in the transfers. Fund 27 came in, revenues were about 145,000 higher than projected, than budgeted. There was a high cost that we had received, special education open enrollment in from putting in actual costs of what those students that are open enrollment in are. We were able to recoup some funds, and then Medicaid school-based services was higher than what we had budgeted. And then expenditures were about 168,000 under what we had projected, but again, there's still invoices coming in for that. So due to the extra revenues and the lower expenditures, that decreased the amount we need to transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 27. So that was a piece of that too.
The numbers you were just reading off of the fund balances, are you doing some math while you're looking at these charts?
No,
Or
I
where-
ran some reports. I should have
okay.
included that here, but I ran some reports this afternoon
Oh, okay,
to see,
okay.
you know, what is that fund balance right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you just look at this with the general fund, you're gonna come up with a lot more, not taking into consideration that I believe we were like $1.8 million, yeah, 1.871 in the negative at the start of the year.
Right.
So. That would be added there. Any questions on this report?
The food service, year-to-date expenses, so are over, that's something you anticipated. I know we've talked about food service, so that's not. How should I process that number? If you have any tips.
It is higher, yeah, the
Okay.
expenditures than what I had anticipated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
do we know why?
I would say we had more food service sales, and then if we're not charging enough to cover that cost.
Each
So,
additional sale increases the deficit.
That we talked about.
yeah, so I guess that's what I'm wondering then, so does that
That's
change anything about the way we were looking at that? Like when we approved raising, like, would there be different numbers now, different,
Well,
would it be
that-
significant or?
Yeah, I can go back and look at that, yeah, because I've projected sales for next year based on this year's sales.
And we approved an increase, knowing it
Yes.
wasn't even gonna
Right.
cut into
That's
what
right.
we
Mhm.
anticipated
That's
this
right.
year. So we could be looking at a larger overage or whatever. Okay.
That's correct.
Is there a timing place where we could increase those fees mid-year? Didn't we talk about that?
We did talk
did
about that.
So we would have an opportunity probably
Mhm.
mid-year to look at reassessing and if we're going to push up an increase based on what we're like, if we're seeing the same trend happening, we could look at that mid-year.
And I would keep suggesting that we explore whether we are getting the best deal and the best food for our students from our provider.
Yeah, we are currently getting, we're in a fixed price contract. And we're looking at, there's also an option you have to put it out to bid again, but to do a cost reimbursable. So where the food service company has the costs, this is how much they pay for food, this is how much, staffing is. And then they would bid a fee on top of that, an administrative fee, and then everything else, if you came in making a profit, the district could be getting some of that. Like our à la carte sales, I was quite surprised to see with this fixed cost, fixed price, that they may sell all these items à la carte. And normally districts make money on that, you would if it was a cost reimbursable.
Okay.
But because it's not, you know, they group it together, the cost, what they're charging, and that's a meal, and that's the price we pay, so there's not anything coming back.
When, so just like, so I have a timeline for like, if you're looking at that, when would you have the potential to maybe switch the system that we're doing with?
We would have the potential to do that next July, first, we would put something out in the, work with the other consortium districts in the consortium, and put that out to bid in spring,
Spring,
or late
okay,
winter.
okay,
Mhm.
just wondering when I can ask again. Yeah.
Then, the next item is the accounts, payable report, and, those total $1,193,854.59. And, break that out here. Some of this, the reason for the ending of this, for the increase from other months is due to paying expenses for the next year. Maybe that are already coming in, and then trying to get everything paid that we can, that we do need to pay, so that we can get our books closed up for the audit. So the amount of, balance sheet items was $530,347.27, and then expenditures were $667,273.66. Which on the next report, you can kind of see that, how that varies from month to month. And then revenues, which is usually due to, the majority of it is due to the commodities on our food service invoices, was $3,760.34. And then the next report, the fiscal year 25, summary of pay, benefits, and disbursements from July 2024 through June 2025 is attached. And that is showing the full year. And I also added a column for the payroll payables. Those are earnings that the teachers and administration had in the 24-25 fiscal year that are paid out over the summer in repays. So that you can see that too. So those are already processed, the actual expense piece of it are processed. And the July 15th has already been paid, but Tracy Beaver and payroll updates those also, the expense is already showing in our reports, that's already there. Any questions on those?
None. Chris? No, I asked a couple questions I already asked. Kate?
No.
And then the,
Mr. Martin?
And a few, but if you have other stuff.
yeah, just one thing, yep. And then the month-end cash balance. The district ended the month of June with $8,520,853. And then there was a decrease, if you look on your report, there was a decrease in the WISP Fund 38, and that was to move those funds that were expended out of the checking for the debt service payments, to get those moved over where they should be. Great. Well, that's all.
Mr. Martin?
In the accounts payable report on page 9, there's about $10,000 in lawyer bills, and the question is, that was a handbook work, is it just being sued, or is that something else?
That would be consultation on the handbook work, consultation on open records requests, consultation on special education and student discipline proceedings.
Does it also include the hearing, or is that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and also
That
the
would be a
hearing
big chunk of
petition
it.
boundaries.
Oh, right,
Graphic,
boundary petition
but
would be
that
a
should
large chunk.
hours of
Yeah.
our lives.
Yeah,
So those are all contributing factors.
And on page 17, there was procure therapy for Fund 27 that looks like as for a substitute teacher, and my question is, when do you use them versus teachers on call?
So we had a teacher position or vacancy open up mid-year and we needed somebody to carry that out if we were looking for a licensed special education teacher. And so we would go through teachers on call to try to find somebody to kind of do like a long-term fill. And if we couldn't find somebody, a qualified candidate there, then we would rely on another service, so.
And last one is just more comment on page 18 with what into 19, there's a parking ticket from 2023 for $100. If whoever is responsible for that is still in the district, you can't track them down to get that back. I would, but just comment.
Interesting. So. We received that late too. It was one of our vehicles that we were leasing that we just bought out. And the ticket had went to the lease company.
Oh, interesting.
And then they sent it to us and then there were fees on it because it was late.
Oh,
But thank you, we will.
thank you for paying the ticket so that there aren't more fees, right? The rest, yes, what Lauren said. All right, is that it? From you? All right, so would anyone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the revenues, expenditures, and payroll for June 2025.
I'll second.
Motion by Chris Robinson, second by Katie Avalos. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I heard 4 ayes. And that concludes our business. On to board preview and planning. There's not much coming up, right? There's just meetings, you know.
I guess we should just take a summer break. Just kidding.
Shake. The draft meetings are already up for August, right? In early form, so
Yep,
if we were to look at them.
Early form, yes.
Equity committee is gonna be on the August 6th. Meeting, I think currently it's just for discussion.
I think they're gonna revisit their work up to this point and then sort of the initial goals that they sort of were aiming towards.
Okay. We might wanna think about a motion because we never went back and approved membership.
Right.
So
Okay,
we probably need to technically do that. Because we would need to know who the committee members are and nominate and approve. So. We never, that's just a team meeting to us. And then I don't think there's no events, right? For the next meeting?
no, not before the next meeting. I'm trying to, there was something else that I was like, oh, maybe that, I mean, I think to the point, and I included this, I mean, the update to the board that there's, I think Michelle had sent off some advocacy letters as well at this point.
Yeah.
And we're trying to kind of stay on top of that. I think there's a lot of information that's swirling and changing as it has been all year, right?
Yeah.
Around that. And then just kind of taking a look at, Michelle and I are really looking at sort of what happened with the state budget and like where those increases are, but then also where the takeaways are, so that we have a really transparent picture for our community. And so, I think, we gotta launch our school year, but also kind of wrapping our head around some of those things and possibly doing a board workshop sometime in fall, early fall.
Yes.
To tackle that, so we can have some really clear messaging for the community,
Yes.
so that the money in, money out is very clear.
Yeah, and I think that's a particularly good role for us to
Yeah.
fill.
Yeah.
With messaging out and.
Maybe you asked her this too about like in the Glendale newsletter, like
Yeah.
if the board,
Mhm.
like thinking about how we would want to utilize that, which I think has to be addressed in August.
Right, so
So-
we could be thinking about whether we want to celebrate and push out that we now have performance indicators. Our strategic plan is in motion and we got big budget stories to tell, we could maybe come up with some bullet points, which would be a nice way to queue up really clear dialogue, right? And then if you are sending out advocacy, if you've written letters, we'd love to get copies of them. And then we could check in, I mean, that stuff, I find I get a lot of hits for me. right? But I get a surprising amount of viewership whenever I post about budget.
Yeah.
And advocacy pieces, and if you share and then other people share, it's a good way to kind of softly.
Yeah.
Spread information in the community about what's going on in budget, so
Absolutely.
if you feel like it.
Yeah.
I would
think-
love to just get copies of whatever you're sending out to legislature, and then we can also follow up and queue ourselves up to.
Yeah, and in our board documents as well, I believe that, in that front page, I believe it into like the other advocacy materials that we
Right,
have.
right.
So too, if that becomes even a landing spot to store those, so we can put that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it, perfect.
Yeah.
Speaking of the board resource
Yeah.
that you've put together, thank you. I don't recall, is there like a deadline for feedback, or are we looking at this as like an
It's a living
ongoing?
document, right?
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
if there's
I don't
something,
know.
if there's something that you feel like I know, there was a request to put like the Metro handbook in there to
Right.
be able to look at it,
Okay.
and that, I mean, if there's something that you're like, hey, I really wish this was already like in that front page,
Yeah,
like, please let me know about that, right?
Okay,
So
I
we
can-
can assume it's just like, yeah, it's a living
It's a living
document, we're gonna
document.
figure out how it works best for us. as we
Okay.
communicate.
I wanna put a board improvement plan on our radar. Like
Yeah.
whenever this district and the schools start doing theirs, I would like the board to be able to mirror that work. And do that for ourselves.
Yeah. It would be nice to set simple like action plan goals.
Like
That'd
maybe
be nice.
using whatever, like looking at how you guys do it, I feel like it'd be interesting to see what would apply.
Yeah. We could build sticker charts for ourselves too.
Just kidding.
See who can earn the most gold stars. Incentivize
Dopamine
ourselves,
hit.
yeah,
Gold
yeah.
star. Okay. Are you ready for the next?
Oh, yeah, there's one last agenda item. Do you have a make a motion?
Okay, I move to adjourn.
With attitude, I like it. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Aye, this motion is adjourned.
Alright.
Thank you, everyone. We're getting on the goal this time.
For the ding dong.
Because it's probably at the beginning.